Katy Perry is one of the best-selling artists of all time. She's a princess of pop with 9 #1 hits. Perry is the first solo female artist to have 5 #1 singles from one album.
Katy Perry has always been known for her bold music and colorful personality, but recently, things haven't seemed the same. Fans have started noticing changes in her career and public appearances, raising questions about what might really be going on. From unexpected setbacks to growing concerns online, her situation appears to be getting worse.
I so badly want to be Catherine Hudson that I don't even want to look like Katy Perry anymore sometimes. I cut my hair is because I really want to be my authentic self. So it hurts. I don't feel like I can.
Is this just a temporary phase, or is there something deeper happening behind the scenes? Join us in this video as we take a closer look at what's unfolding and why it matters now more than before, for her and her fans. Joke that spiraled out of control. It all started with what seemed like a harmless moment online. A music publication called Complex shared a graphic on Threads that quickly caught attention. The post showed Katy Perry poking fun at Justin Bieber after his first-ever Coachella headline performance. Bieber had just come off a big night at Coachella, where he blended in old YouTube clips of himself as a teenager during his set. It was meant to be nostalgic, a full-circle moment for fans who had followed his journey from the very beginning. But Katy Perry saw it differently. On her Instagram, she made a quick joke, saying she was thankful Bieber had YouTube Premium because she didn't want to sit through ads. It was light, sarcastic, and very much in line with her usual online humor. Complex picked up the joke and turned it into a post. At that point, it still felt like just another celebrity moment, something that would trend for a few hours and then disappear. But that's not what happened. That post is where Ruby Rose stepped in. And unlike everyone else, she wasn't joking. Her reply hit differently. It stopped people mid-scroll. Ruby Rose wrote that no one should care what Katy Perry thought. Then, without warning, she made a serious accusation. She claimed that Katy Perry had sexually mistreated her years ago at the Spice Market nightclub in Melbourne. At first, people weren't sure what to make of it, but Ruby didn't stop there. She followed up with more posts, each one more detailed than the last. She described the incident in a way that was hard to ignore. According to her, she had been lying on her best friend's lap at the club, trying to avoid Katy Perry. She claimed Perry approached her, bent down, pulled her underwear aside, and rubbed her private parts against Ruby's face until she reacted. Ruby said the moment shocked her so much that she ended up vomiting. It was graphic, it was specific, and it was completely public. The internet didn't just react, it exploded. Ruby Rose also explained why she was speaking out now. She said she had been in her early 20s when it allegedly happened, and that she is now 40. According to her, it took nearly 2 decades to feel ready to talk about it. She said that the delay showed how deeply trauma can affect someone. She thanked people who believed her, saying it meant everything to finally be heard. Then, she took things even further. She openly challenged Katy Perry to take legal action against her. She said Perry was welcome to sue, but claimed she wouldn't, because, in her words, the event actually happened. Ruby insisted she had proof, including photos, and said there were multiple witnesses since it took place in a public setting. What made this situation even more intense was the timing. Katy Perry hadn't just been quietly attending Coachella. She had arrived during the first weekend with her new boyfriend, Justin Trudeau. The two were seen wearing matching white outfits, effectively confirming their relationship in front of a global audience. Perry was in high spirits, playful, visible, and fully in the spotlight. Her joke about Bieber came from that same energy. But for Ruby Rose, it seemed to strike a nerve. A post that started as a simple jab about streaming ads suddenly turned into something much bigger. Something serious enough to spark conversations about accountability and past behavior across the internet. The scale of it all was overwhelming. Within 24 hours, the story had become the top trending topic across major entertainment outlets in the English-speaking world. Within 48 hours, a representative for Katy Perry responded. The statement wasn't long. It wasn't emotional. It was short, sharp, and carefully crafted. What did Katy Perry's representatives say in the statement? Keep watching to find out. A statement that felt like a warning shot. The response from Katy Perry's team didn't take long. When it finally came, it was short, sharp, and clearly written with intention. There was no attempt to soften the tone or ease into the situation. The statement went straight to the point, saying the allegations made by Ruby Rose were not only false, but also dangerous and reckless lies. That wording stood out immediately. Then came a second layer. The statement added that Ruby Rose had a well-documented history of making serious public accusations on social media against different people, and that those claims had often been denied by the individuals involved. At first glance, many fans saw it as a standard celebrity denial, but when you look closer, it feels very different. Every word in that statement is doing something specific. The word lies draws a hard line, making it clear there is no truth to the claims. Reckless shifts attention to the mindset of the accuser, suggesting carelessness or irresponsibility. Categorically false closes the door on any middle ground, leaving no space for partial truth. And the mention of a well-documented history starts to build a pattern around Ruby Rose's behavior. This isn't casual PR language. It reads more like something prepared with legal action in mind. To really understand why, you have to look at how defamation law works in Australia. The rules there are very different from places like the United States. In the US, public figures have to prove that a false claim was made with actual malice, meaning the person either knew it was false or didn't care about the truth. That's a very high bar, and it's why celebrities rarely win these cases. In Australia, it works the other way around. The person making the statement has to prove that what they said is true. If they can't, they lose. It's a major shift, and it changes the entire strategy. Because of this, Australia has quietly become a preferred place for high-profile defamation battles. Several well-known figures have already used this system. Nicole Kidman has taken legal action there. Jeffrey Rush did the same and walked away with nearly $3 million. Rebel Wilson also won a major payout. Even Ben Roberts-Smith has fought a high-profile case in that system. When you read Katy Perry's statement with that in mind, it starts to feel less like a reaction and more like the first move in a larger plan. But then something unexpected happened. Just one day after her representative released that statement, Katy Perry posted on her own Instagram story. Instead of addressing the accusations directly, she shared the cover art of her song By the Grace of God from her 2013 album Prism. Over the image, she wrote just 3 words: "I love you." There was no explanation, no direct response, no mention of Ruby Rose or the situation unfolding online. That silence spoke just as loudly. Fans quickly started digging into the song's lyrics. One line in particular kept appearing in screenshots: "The truth will set you free." People began debating what the post meant. Some believed it was a message of faith. Others thought it was directed at Ruby Rose. And some saw it as a quiet signal to her fans to stay supportive. Whatever the intention, it became her only personal message during the entire controversy. Everything else came through official statements. And there's another layer that makes this moment feel heavier. Katy Perry hasn't exactly been having an easy run lately. Her 2024 album 143 struggled with critics, becoming the lowest-reviewed project of her career. The lead single failed to make a strong impact on the charts. Her decision to work with producer Dr. Luke sparked backlash, especially because of his past legal battle with Keisha. Then came April 2025, when she joined Jeff Bezos on a Blue Origin rocket flight. Instead of praise, the moment turned into weeks of online criticism. A few months later, in July, she and Orlando Bloom ended their relationship after nearly 10 years together. Not long after that, she began dating Justin Trudeau, which only added more attention to her personal life. The one bright spot has been her tour, the Lifetimes Tour, which reportedly brought in over $130 million. But even that success hasn't fully repaired her public image. So when her team responded with such precise, legal-sounding language, it wasn't just about one accusation. It was about control. Because at that point, she wasn't only defending herself from Ruby Rose's claims, she was trying to stop an already difficult year from turning into something much worse. But then things took a serious turn that no one expected. Stay tuned to find out what happened. The story crosses into a police investigation. What started as a viral online clash quickly moved into something far more serious. Authorities in Australia have now confirmed that a formal investigation is underway following the allegations made against Katy Perry. The claims, brought forward by Ruby Rose, known for roles in Batgirl and Orange is the New Black, have officially reached law enforcement. This is no longer just a social media storm. According to a statement shared with Variety, Victoria Police confirmed that detectives are actively looking into what they described as a historical sexual misconduct. The case is being handled by the Melbourne Sexual Offences and Abuse Investigation Team, often referred to as SOCIT. The details they released were limited, but still significant. Police stated that the alleged incident took place in Melbourne back in 2010 at a licensed venue in the city's central business district. They also made it clear that the investigation is still ongoing, which means they are not sharing further information at this stage. That silence is standard in cases like this, but it also adds tension, because now the situation exists in two worlds at once. On one side, there is the public narrative, driven by posts, reactions, and non-stop online debate. On the other hand, there is a formal legal process moving quietly in the background, following its own rules and timeline. Meanwhile, Katy Perry's team has already pushed back hard. As previously stated, her representatives have denied the allegations completely, describing them as reckless lies. That wording hasn't changed, even as the situation has escalated into a police matter. And that contrast is important. On one hand, you have a detailed accusation that sparked global attention within hours. On the other hand, you have a firm denial supported by language that feels carefully prepared for legal scrutiny. Now, with police involved, both sides are being pulled into a process where public opinion matters far less than evidence. It also shifts how the story is perceived. When something is just trending online, people argue, speculate, and move on. But once law enforcement steps in, the tone changes. The stakes become real. Every statement, every past detail, and every public move starts to carry more weight. For Ruby Rose, this marks a turning point. Her claims are no longer just being discussed. They are being examined. For Katy Perry, it means the situation she has strongly denied is now part of an official investigation. And for the public, it becomes harder to separate what is known from what is still being determined. At this stage, one thing is clear. What began as a single comment under a viral post has grown into something much bigger than anyone expected. As the police step in, online rumors spread even faster. When the internet moves faster than the facts. As the story kept growing, another layer started to form, one that made everything even harder to follow. Across platforms like Threads and X, some users began sharing screenshots from other women who claimed they had uncomfortable encounters with Katy Perry years ago. These posts spread quickly, picked up by fan pages, and reshared thousands of times within hours. But there's a key issue. None of those additional claims has been independently confirmed by major news outlets covering the story right now. And in a situation already filled with viral clips, reposts, and fast-moving reactions, that detail matters more than ever. Because when a story reaches this level, the line between verified information and unconfirmed claims can start to blur. At this point, only a few elements are firmly established. Ruby Rose has made a detailed allegation. Katy Perry has strongly denied it through her representative. And authorities in Australia have confirmed that a police investigation into a historical incident in Melbourne is currently underway.
Global pop superstar Katy Perry is tonight at the centre of a police investigation over bombshell claims of sexual abuse inside a Melbourne nightclub.
Everything else is still uncertain. This is where celebrity scandals can quickly become difficult to navigate. Once a claim begins circulating across social media, it often spreads faster than it can be properly checked. New accusations, reactions, and interpretations can appear almost instantly. each one adding more noise to an already complicated situation. That speed doesn't automatically make those claims true or false. It just means they need to be handled with caution until reliable reporting has time to catch up. So far, Katy Perry herself has not spoken publicly beyond the official statement released by her team. She has stayed completely silent on the details, leaving her response in the hands of her representatives. Ruby Rose, on the other hand, has also stepped back, but for a different reason. She said she would no longer discuss the situation publicly for now, citing requests connected to the ongoing police investigation. That decision has only added to the tension, because now both sides have gone quiet at the same time. What's left is a kind of holding pattern. The headlines are everywhere, the conversations are intense, but many of the most important facts are still being questioned, challenged, or simply unknown. And that's where things stand. What happens next may depend less on what trends online and more on what investigators are able to find. Evidence, witness accounts, and official findings will likely shape the direction of the story far more than any post or viral thread. Until then, this remains one of the most talked about celebrity controversies of the moment, but also one of the least resolved. But then old claims return, changing everything again. Keep watching to find out more. Old allegations resurface amid new storm. As the situation continues to unfold, another story from the past has been pulled back into the spotlight, one that adds even more complexity to everything surrounding Katy Perry. Actor and producer Josh Kloss, who appeared as Perry's love interest in her Teenage Dream music video, has once again spoken about an incident he says left a lasting impact on him. In a recent interview with Page 6, Kloss described carrying what he called silent trauma for nearly 14 years after an alleged encounter with the singer. This isn't the first time he has shared this story. Back in August 2019, Kloss posted his claims publicly on Instagram. But at the time, the story didn't gain the same level of attention it is receiving now. With the recent allegations from Ruby Rose making headlines, Kloss said he felt it was important to speak again, this time more openly. He admitted it wasn't easy. "It's hard to bring up something that seems irrelevant to a lot of people," he said, explaining why he had stayed quiet for so long. But seeing the current situation unfold pushed him to step forward again, saying he wanted to be brave and show my face. Kloss, now 45, first met Katy Perry while filming the Teenage Dream video in Santa Barbara, California, back in 2010. According to him, the two got along well during the shoot and built a friendly connection. The incident he describes, however, happened about 2 years later. He says he was invited to a birthday party for Johnny Wujic, a longtime stylist and costume designer for Perry. The party took place at a skating rink in Glendale, California. Kloss claims that when he arrived with a friend, Perry greeted him enthusiastically outside the venue. What happened next, according to his account, caught him completely off guard. While introducing his friend, Kloss alleges that Perry pulled down his pants and underwear, exposing himself in front of others. He said the moment left him shocked and embarrassed, recalling that he freaked out immediately, while Perry, in his words, laughed. For him, that reaction is what stayed with him the most. He later explained that some people might see an act like that as a joke or prank, but he insists that's not how it felt in the moment. Even something like being pantsed, he said, would have been humiliating, but he emphasized that there was no playful context in their relationship that would make it seem harmless. At the time, Kloss admitted he had a crush on Perry, which made the situation even more confusing for him. He described how, in that moment, he wasn't sure how to interpret what had happened, but over time, as he processed it, he came to see it differently. When he first shared his story in 2019, people close to Perry pushed back. Johnny Wujic publicly dismissed the claim, calling it untrue and saying Perry would never do something like that. Another friend, jewelry designer Marcia Molinari, described Kloss as an obsessed fan. According to Kloss, those responses only added to the confusion and pressure he already felt. He also revealed that part of him expected some kind of acknowledgement from Perry, maybe even a private apology, something simple, he said, that recognized the moment and showed growth, but that never came. Instead, Perry addressed similar allegations in a broader way during a 2020 interview with The Guardian. Without speaking about any one claim directly, she reflected on the wider issue of public accusations. She pointed out how quickly stories can spread, saying that anyone can say anything, and that headlines often move faster than verification. She also explained that she had chosen not to respond in detail out of respect for movements like #MeToo, adding that she wanted to focus on truth rather than contribute to noise. When asked directly if the allegations were true, she avoided giving a clear yes or no answer. Instead, she suggested that constantly responding to every claim would take over her life and distract her from more important conversations. Around the same time, other accusations surfaced briefly online, including a claim from a Russian TV presenter and a widely discussed moment involving a contestant on American Idol. Those incidents added to the public debate, though they were handled differently and remain separate from Klaus's account. For Klaus, coming forward wasn't about revenge. He said his goal was to protect his own peace of mind after years of people telling him how lucky he was to have worked with a major star. That idea, he explained, didn't match his personal experience. In his words, it wasn't about punishing Katy Perry. It was about finally saying something that had been sitting with him for years. Old details now point back to Spice Market, where it allegedly went down. The night at Spice Market. To understand how complicated this situation has become, you have to go back to one specific place and one specific night. Spice Market wasn't just any nightclub. It opened in 2009 in Melbourne, tucked into the basement of a building on Beanie Lane, right next to the Grand Hyatt Melbourne on Collins Street. The venue was known for its scale and style. It was designed to feel like a Moroccan courtyard, complete with a fountain, antique-style temple entrances, and a layout that could hold around 600 people. It also had a private VIP section called the Genie Bottle. That's where celebrities usually stayed. In August 2010, Katy Perry was in Australia promoting her hit California Girls, just before the release of her album Teenage Dream. Earlier that same evening, she made headlines for crashing a Year 12 high school formal at the Grand Hyatt. She danced to Single Ladies, and someone captured the moment on video.
While Katy Perry's formal foray lasted just 15 minutes, the limelight lingered much longer for those who danced alongside her.
The clip quickly spread online, with outlets like TMZ picking it up. Years later, that footage is still easy to find. After the formal, the night didn't end. The group reportedly moved next door to Spice Market. According to a former manager of the club, Katy Perry and Ruby Rose arrived together. They weren't alone. The manager said they were with Perry's hair and makeup artist, along with a male friend of Ruby Rose. From the start, the night was intense. The manager described it as a security nightmare. With around 600 people inside, the energy was already high. He said Perry kept stepping out onto the main floor, dancing in the middle of the crowd, drawing attention every time she did. Still, most of the night, according to him, was spent inside the Genie Bottle VIP area. That's where things were more controlled, at least on the surface. He described the group as drinking and keeping to themselves. They were, in his words, drunk but not out of control, just like anyone else, enjoying a night out at a packed club. Then came the end of the night. The manager explained that staff were concerned about photos being taken of the two stars in a vulnerable state. To avoid that, they arranged a car and a driver. He said both Perry and Ruby Rose were escorted out through a back route, taken up a fire exit, and placed into the same vehicle. From there, he believed they continued on to another well-known Melbourne venue, the Peel Hotel. But it's one specific detail from his account that stands out. When asked about the alleged incident, the manager said he was not aware of any misconduct. He also said he was not aware of anyone vomiting. That wording is careful. It doesn't confirm or deny anything directly. It simply states what he personally knew or didn't know. And that kind of phrasing often matters in situations where legal risk is high. Then, there's another twist that adds even more complexity. Spice Market is no longer there. The nightclub officially closed its doors on January 1st, 2026, just 3 months before Ruby Rose's accusations went public. On its final night, the venue held a closing sale, selling off its decor and sharing a farewell message on social media, thanking guests for years of memories. By the time authorities began looking into the case, the physical location tied to the allegation was already gone. That matters more than it might seem. Ownership had moved on. Staff had scattered. Records that might have helped piece together the night were likely lost. And any security footage? That's almost certainly gone, too. Back in 2010, most Australian nightclubs only kept surveillance recordings for about 30 days before they were erased. So anything captured that night would have disappeared over a decade ago. What's left now isn't physical evidence, it's memory. And that's where things become even more difficult. According to past writings, Ruby Rose has spoken about that same night before, but her version at the time didn't match what she is saying now. So, what did Ruby Rose's initial version say before her recent allegations? Let's find out. A past story that complicates the present. As the investigation continues, an older piece of writing from Ruby Rose has resurfaced, and it's adding a new layer of confusion to an already complicated situation. The column, originally published in 2011 by news.com.au, describes a chaotic night out in Melbourne that appears to line up with the same time period now being discussed. In it, Rose reflects on an evening filled with heavy drinking, one that ultimately ended with her vomiting on Katy Perry. But the tone of that column is very different from what is being said today. At the time, Rose framed the experience as a personal low point, something embarrassing, but also something that pushed her toward a major life change. She described it as the moment that made her seriously reconsider her relationship with alcohol. "I spectacularly lost dignity and keys one night, not too long ago," she wrote. She even referenced the now famous moment when she and Katy Perry crashed a Year 12 formal, adding, "Remember when Katy and I crashed the Year 12 formal? I don't." In the column, she explained that she had been sober for 30 days at that point, her first real attempt at quitting alcohol. But that night, she decided to go out and celebrate with Perry. The plan, she said, was simple: just one drink. It didn't stay that way. "What's the worst that could happen?" she wrote, before answering her own question. According to her, she didn't stop at a one drink or even 10. The night spiraled, and it ended with her getting sick and vomiting on Perry's foot. Even then, she was clear about how she saw the situation. She wrote that nothing truly serious had happened beyond that moment. In her own words, "Before you jump to conclusions, nothing horrific happened." She emphasized that while the night was messy and embarrassing, it wasn't something she viewed as traumatic at the time. Instead, she used it as a turning point. She explained that the experience pushed her to make a decision, to step away from alcohol for good. She described that choice as one of the best she had ever made, suggesting that the night, while uncomfortable, ultimately led to something positive in her life. Now, years later, that same night is being discussed in a completely different way. The resurfacing of this column doesn't answer the bigger questions, but it does introduce a clear contrast. On one hand, there is a past account that downplays the events, focusing on personal embarrassment and growth. On the other hand, there are current allegations that describe something far more serious. That contrast is why this piece of writing is getting so much attention now. It doesn't prove or disprove anything on its own, but it does show how the same moment can be remembered, interpreted, or described differently over time, especially when years have passed and new perspectives have formed. And in a case where so much already depends on memory, that difference matters more than ever. Do you think things can get worse than they already are for Katy Perry? Let us know in the comments section below. In the end, this story is no longer just about headlines or online reactions. It's about how quickly a moment can spiral when public attention, old memories, and new claims all collide at once. Behind the noise around Katy Perry's situation is a reminder that real-life allegations, investigations, and reputations don't move at the speed of the internet. They move slowly, carefully, and with consequences that last far beyond what people see online. If this breakdown helped you understand the bigger picture, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more real stories that go beyond the headlines.